you can catch their vibe like you catch a gnarly cold that I just caught. We are back, everybody. And little old Jimmy B's got a cold. Pretty gnarly one. It feels like I have AirPods in at all times, and you can probably notice it a little bit in my voice. But we persevere. Got to keep these coming out daily. And if my voice will hang on for a few minutes, it actually brings to mind two really important philosophical topics. First is that back in 2017, there was a research study that showed that moods are as contagious as colds. Meaning that you can catch a negative mood from a friend or a coworker, from a neighbor, in the same way that you can catch a virus or cold. I think about that quite often. One, just for the logistics of avoiding really negatively mooded people. But in addition to that, it has such philosophical implications around the concept of satsang, community in truth. Satsang is the Sanskrit word for community in pursuit of truth, community in truth, community of the wise. If we were to translate it to English, there's no exact translation for it. The Buddhists call it sangha, another Sanskrit word meaning the same thing. But satsang and sangha, that is very different and requires deliberate direction to find communities where you actually want to catch whatever they're dealing with. These communities of the wise, these are communities that reinforce wise principles, wise approaches to challenges. Could be to parenting. Wise approaches to your day, to productivity, to business. Philosophical approaches, and this is the benefit of something like the ashram or Daily Vedantic Club, or people online. You can DM myself on Instagram, the Daily Vedantic, whenever you want. And that can be a great form of satsang, where you're interacting with other people on the path towards wisdom, a very deliberate path towards wisdom. But the converse is also true. Without that deliberate direction, if we find ourselves just sliding into whatever social circles are easiest or are around me, you can easily find yourself in what's called dosang, which is the opposite. This is false community. This is having a friendship with someone that's not only taking up bad habits, but trying to convince you should too. Saying, oh no, let's stay out. I know it's Tuesday, Wednesday night, but let's go out and get blitzed tonight. Instead of a positive influence on life, that person, or sadly, if you find yourself in a community of these kinds of people, then they are negative reinforcements. And if they require you to lower your aims for you to be friends with them, that is not a friend. It should be the other way around, where the friends around you, they subconsciously call you to be a better version of yourself. It's like that adage of you are the average of the 5 closest people you know. The idea that you can catch a mood like a cold, I think extends to where you can catch habits like you'd catch a cold. A friend talks about how amazing it feels to wake up early and not have that second or third drink before going to bed. The friend that talks about how they set a personal or professional goal 6 months out and they're tracking towards it. The friend that's talking about the hard thing they're working through and they're doing it with high integrity. And it is impressing you. It is influencing you to approach your own challenges with high integrity. The friends that are generous, the friend that shows you what feels like extreme limits of what generosity can look like. That's satsang. But the other thing that I think about when I think about catching a cold or catching The positive equivalent, catching vitamins just by being around someone. That satsang extends, and I've talked about this aspect on the podcast, and it's really worth reinforcing. It extends beyond just people. Our satsang, community of the wise, the world we live in now, it's, maybe 5,000 years ago, it was just the people in the village that you interacted with the most. But today, it's the books you read, the TV shows you watch, the podcasts you listen to. We catch those things like a cold too, whatever aims that those people might have, whatever tactics they take towards those aims. It's really, really worth being deliberate around the media, the conversations, the friends that we surround ourselves with. Because, well, now we have the science to back it up. You can catch their vibe like you catch a gnarly cold that I just caught. And when we think about the ease in which we can catch these things from the people or the ideas that we surround ourselves with, it nudges us to be far more intentional of making sure we're in groups or surrounding ourselves with media, information, books that lift us up. Because you're either getting that influence by what you deliberately choose to put around you, or you are catching the virus of attachment, which is called a virus by recent sages for a reason, because it is so easy to catch. Now, the natural questions can arise of, what do you do about family members that are toxic to be around, that are giving those colds? Well, if a family member has COVID, do you take precautions? If a family member 100 years ago had tuberculosis, do you take precautions? I'm not saying you need to cut them out of your life completely, although that can absolutely be warranted if needed. Just because someone's related to you by blood does not mean you need to subject yourself to whatever toxicity they carry with them everywhere they go. That does not mean you need to subject yourself to them. But maybe it's not quite black and white, and you just need to take necessary precautions. Well, if you would do it with any other disease, you might as well do it with this as well. Again, don't need to cut them out, but take necessary precautions. Know that, all right, I don't need to get too close. I don't need to be around them too often. And when I am around them, just be careful. Wear the equivalent of a mental little face mask where you're like, you know what? You say to yourself, I'm going to take a little elbow room from whatever ideas, whatever advice they start to try to push on me. And for the ones that lift you up, for the people in your life that lift you up, well, foster, nurture those relationships. It's one of the best things that we can do for our own development. And that's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.